Well, welcome to the journey. My name is Kevin Polkey, and I am the host of the journey. And today we are going to have a reflection. Um, this goes kind of brings me back. This particular story brings me back to an earlier time period in my life when I was a teenager. I was bodybuilding at the time. I believe it was either my second or third show, so that would have made me maybe 16, possibly 17 years old at the time. So either a junior or senior in high school. Either way, I was getting ready for this show and I was probably, probably 4 weeks into an 8 to 10 week diet training regimen for a particular show. And back then when we would prepare for a show and we go on a particular diet, it would really had a lot to do with restricting what we were eating for, compared to restricting what we were eating comparatively to the off season, during a bulking phase or where we didn't have as many restrictions with our diet. And so this elimination of certain foods and and a certain amount of calories. For a young person, I remember mentally just being all consumed, not only with the training regimen, but this feeling of constantly being hungry. And and because we really, or I didn't at least, really know in totality what I was doing, it also felt like at times low energy. Anyways, I remember at the time, again, 4 weeks into the the the, the diet and the training, getting ready for a show, that I usually only competed once, maybe twice a year, but usually only one time period of the year. Looking forward to this and uh, being able to, kind of display and show the gains that I'd made throughout the year. I knew very well that this was very much a self-imposed restriction. Anyways, I noticed that when, people would at the gym or other places would see me and greet me, they would ask how I was doing. Just a normal everyday greeting. I noticed at the time that I must have mentally took that as an opportunity to start explaining to people about the discomfort that I was in, the aspects of the diet and how, either being hungry or fatigued because of the lack of energy or whatever. And I noticed that over days, maybe even a week of doing this, that I also noticed that people might all of a sudden become disinterested in hearing me drone on about the discomfort that I was in because of the restrictions. So at 16 years old, I'm realizing that when people were asking me the question, how are you doing? They actually weren't asking me how I was doing. They meant to really say hello, which is a pretty rude awakening to find out at 16 that people really aren't caring about my well-being, or at least this aspect of my well-being, and didn't want to go into a whole storyline of what I was experiencing in the self-imposed diet and training regimen. But I was very aware of the fact that I did not want people to accept me, that the 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 eye rolling or trying to shift away from me when they asked the question when they meant just to say hello, and that I would start droning on about what I was experiencing. I didn't want to continue that to happen. So I remember making the decision to come up with something different because it's such an automatic thing. When someone says that, how are you doing? It almost cued me up to immediately go into telling them how I was doing. So I decided that I was going to come up with a phrase that may not necessarily be the full truth of what I was experiencing, but I thought it'd be a better answer, or at least an answer that wasn't going to push people away from me. So I came up with the answer of when someone asked me how I was doing, I would say, today's better than yesterday. It seemed honest enough at the time, and and it was better than saying just fine, which clearly I didn't think I was. So I started practicing being intentional about when someone greeted me by asking me how I was doing, I would automatically say, better than yesterday. And I noticed over time that it became more automatic when people would ask that. And more importantly, what I noticed is that people weren't shying away from me is because I wasn't going on and on about what I was experiencing. And probably the biggest gift that I got out of that after a couple weeks of doing this, every time I received that greeting, is that I noticed as I would say, today is better than yesterday, I started actually believing that today was better than yesterday. And most importantly, it was better than it was at the beginning or at the 4 week mark when I was experiencing such what I would consider suffering at the time. This story reminds me of something that I just recently listened to. Adam Grant had a guest on his Rethinking show, and it was a world celebrated author who had best-selling fiction and nonfiction stories that she had created. And one of the things that she said that she disliked about being an author was the book tours, which were required by the 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 publishers um, for her to sell her books, promote her books, she would have to go on these book tours. There was lots of reasons why she said that she disliked them. She disliked all the travel. She disliked the flying. She disliked waiting in the airport. She disliked the hotel. She disliked many, many things, including being away from her family. And so she would dread and openly complain as a book tour was coming up and even at times on the book tour. And as she was going through a self-imposed um, trial, meaning she was kind of like when you think about, sober October or I'm going to, she challenged herself or was challenged to not swear or use any negative language for 30 days. Coming off the no swearing or no profanity for 30 days, she decided to expand that to reframing the thing that she disliked the most, which was the book tour. And her reframe was instead of I have to do a book tour, I get to do a book tour. She said she had little confidence that this was going to work. Probably similar to my story, is that I had little confidence that saying in the midst of this agony and suffering that I was experiencing with the diet and the training, that I had the opportunity to get ready for a show. And I had the opportunity to diet to prepare for the show. I didn't have to do anything. And I think about this in other areas of my life today. Most of the time, when I start getting into a negative spin regarding my thinking about something I need to do, I have already, number one, decided that I'm going to do this. I'm not going to not do this whatever thing. But I continue to use negative talk about all the inconveniences and all the whatever it may be about this activity that I know that I'm going to do and I'm not going to change it. But what can I do to reframe it? In listening to this particular author, remembering back when I was 16, maybe the frame or the reframe is I have the opportunity, I get to do this thing versus I have to do this thing. And similar to the author, as I've been practicing this over the last month, I've noticed there's been a shift in my thinking, a shift in my attitude, uh, a lack of energy toward seeing it half empty. Now I'm seeing it as half full. It's amazing when we identify a pattern, something that seems not naturally to let go of, that if we change our perception toward that ordeal or that situation, how much that can affect our attitude and our thinking. So, what I would invite you to the challenge, that if you find something that you're telling yourself that you have to, even though you know that you're going to, maybe reframe it to saying that you get to. As always, I appreciate you being here and look forward to being with you in next week. And if you think that someone might benefit from this particular reflection, please share it. We never know who needs an opportunity to restart and reframe their perception.